This episode of Vic's Basement is brought to you by Sony and the PlayStation 4, which comes out November 15th. Greatness awaits, and I can't wait for mine. Welcome to my basement, everybody. Hello, Scott Jones.
Victor Lucas, I love that you have had the cleaners in here to get the place all ready for the new consoles.
I'm dusting, man. I'm getting ready.
We've got the old vacuum, the Hoover. We've got that out. We've got the leaf blower.
I threw out the Game Gear.
You finally made room, and you parted with your beloved Game Gear.
I saw one of those because my old Game Gear is kicking around here in the office.
Yeah.
And, man, what a piece of crap that was.
Oh,
and
come on.
I had to buy it, and I had to...
I bought one, too.
And, I bought like 3 or 4 games for the
I had no money
thing.
back then, either.
I know. I remember I bought it in Dallas, Texas, of all places. I treated myself my girlfriend, who was my wife at the time.
You were ranching back then.
Well, we were traveling. No, we were traveling. We had traveled through Mexico.
Taking
and then
beans.
We got tired of traveling through Mexico and spending more money than we had budgeted for, so we said, screw this, let's go to Disney World.
Let's go get a Game Gear.
Yeah, well, and what we did, it was a great trip because we actually landed in Dallas and had a layover on the way back to Vancouver, and we just said, well, can we just extend our layover by, a couple of weeks, and then we'll just take a bus trip across the southern U.S., and so we hit a bunch of towns, Mobile, Alabama, and
really
New
tired
Orleans.
of talking to your girlfriend, now your wife, and you're like, I need a Game Gear.
No, but...
honey?
No,
I am at...
You know me. I like
my last nerve is worked.
Hey, do you know me? I like video games. And I figured, we're going to be traveling on buses for a while. Let's go grab a portable game system.
You know what?
So I bought this thing.
I can't wait for the TV movie.
Of the life.
Of your life. Victor Lucas.
That's kind of what this, if you put all the podcasts together, it's kind of the TV movie.
On bus driving down dusty trail in Texas.
Talk about on this show if we don't talk about ourselves.
Close-up of man playing Game Gear.
Tell me about your Game Gear story. And don't tell me it was a happy one, because that system sucked balls. It wasn't even as good as
you put in like 9 AA batteries, and then it would be dead in 20 minutes.
The Lynx kicked its ass. The Neo Geo Pocket Color kicks its ass.
The N-Gauge.
The Turbo Graphics 16 or whatever.
I was still naive and very young, and I just loved the fact that I wasn't a Game Boy guy. I felt like I was a little too old for the Game Boy. 8-year-olds had the Game Boy. Now I'm just the right age for the Game Boy. Yeah. But back then, I'm like, no, I want the sophisticated game. I want the backlit screen. I want the machine that has the colors. Yeah. So I went to the store. This is when I worked as the mall Santa Claus.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And I had no money. I made minimum wage, and I was working
as
Santa Claus.
On the mall Santa Claus.
In the Pencan Mall. This is what I love about you and me is we could not have been more broke. I was saving money to move to Chicago. And I went and I found the dough, and it wasn't cheap.
No, it wasn't.
To buy this thing.
Yes.
And three or four games, which were all terrible, except for the Mickey Mouse game, which I loved, where you jumped on the giant, the
Castle of Illusion.
In the castles were like
monsters. That was Castle of Illusion.
Yeah, that one.
That's the one that you just ragged on the console version.
Well, back then it was a revelation.
Yeah.
I remember still living at home, still listening to my dad build the fire in the wood stove downstairs. I know I'm painting. It's like Little House on the Prairie.
Yep.
I was upstairs, about to become a grown man, maybe about to experience love and sexuality for the first time.
Puberty had happened.
I was under the covers. Yeah, puberty had happened. I'd sprouted the hair in all the right places, but I was under the covers playing my Game Gear, and I still felt safe and at home, and I was on the cusp of a wild adventure where I'd go to Chicago and all kinds of crazy shit would happen to me. Yeah. But back then I was so afraid of the world, and I just wanted to disappear into this screen for the 20 minutes of battery life that the machine would have.
And you had a positive experience. Because
I don't know. I didn't know any better.
I felt ripped off.
I didn't know any better.
I had already experienced better handheld stuff.
You were a savvier consumer than I was.
I was like, this sucks. Sonic wasn't as good in Game Gear form as Mario was in Game Boy form.
I remember playing the Sonic game.
Yeah, even though it was pretty good. It was lame compared to the monochrome colors of the Game Boy. The first one, that was a better platform.
I couldn't play that thing. I mean, I
tried. You couldn't play it at night.
You had to play in direct sunlight to see anything.
It was the Kindle of video games back in the day.
Oh, it really was.
Yeah, but, we're getting ready for the new consoles.
We've come so far.
Thank you again to Sony and the PlayStation 4, which comes out on November 15th.
Let's sing the jingle. PlayStation 4.
We don't have ours yet.
We're Matt Levitan. Where's our PlayStation?
Cannot wait for PlayStation 4?
Is the FedEx guy here?
Mom, is our PlayStation 4 here?
Because as soon as I get that thing, I am vanishing.
I know.
You will not see me on Twitter.
I know.
You will try to contact me on Facebook. Guess what? I will not be there.
It will be, Scott, we need to host our daily shows. Can you please come back to the
It'll be like
office?
Tron. We'll both disappear inside the PlayStation 4. We should
what?
shoot a Tron segment.
No, you know what we'll do? We'll just put the PlayStation 4 on the set. We'll let it host.
Just put a little
We'll put
toupee on it.
subtitles.
Yeah. Get two of them. Yeah, get two of them.
We'll get a
one with
small one
glasses.
and a big one.
Yeah.
No, we'll put one further in the foreground.
That's great. But
all right,
PlayStation 4s will be at home with us.
I know they will.
We will be rubbing.
What a waste of PlayStation 4s.
Rubbing our things all
our
over
body
them.
parts.
Body parts will get rubbed all over it.
You know what?
I can't believe that the new machines are coming.
Next gen is almost here, man.
Oh, I hope it's my robot
almost
friend
here.
that I've always
been playing
dreamed of.
Battlefield 4 on the PC.
Oh my god!
And that is next gen. That's here already on the PC. I mean, it's
PC is the next gen console of choice.
They're all
for me
so damn amazing. Like the visual fidelity of what we get now, ridiculous.
Guess what?
Puts the Game Gear to shame. It does.
You know, let's talk about Ender's Game really quickly.
Yes,
that was a good movie.
Hellaciously fun.
We both enjoyed it a lot. If you're
totally
looking for
surprised.
something to do this weekend, go see Ender's Game.
Yeah, but Orson Scott Card's still a bigot.
You know what we're gonna? That's all right. You know what?
I couldn't believe that this guy, because I hadn't read the book, so I didn't know what to expect out of this thing. But he wrote a humanitarian, perspective film that was multicultural, that was all about youthful empowerment and getting past your mental blocks and all of these sort of uplifting, aspirational kind of messages in this film. It's definitely emo. It's definitely got some dark, foreboding elements to it, and some powerful messages. But at the core of it, there was a very humane kind of perspective. And I can't believe it's this guy that has all of these, bigotry, sort of backwards looking kind of messaging around. I know I will say this
way too heavy a topic to you.
Yes.
I will say this to you: since the dawn of time, bad people have been making good art, and it's okay. Yeah. It doesn't mean we have to endorse the person if we like the art that they make.
I mean, look at Roman Polanski, look at Woody Allen.
Roman Polanski has made a million great movies. He's a child molester. That is a fact.
I know, it's true. And it's the same with Woody Allen.
Woody Allen, yeah.
I mean,
and he continues to make great movies, and they're great artists. And look at our sports heroes. People who we love have done so many terrible things. Yeah. That doesn't mean we can't admire.
People are not one thing.
But they're not one thing. They're more multifaceted individuals. That is today's life lesson. Thank you. This is like Sesame Street for adults.
I know that we are on the path, and I think Ender's Game is a part of that message.
I just wanted to celebrate that we enjoyed a movie together.
Yeah, but it's part of that message of universal acceptance and working together, and that's what this movie is kind of about. It's celebrating the power of an individual, but also all of the team-based stuff in this thing, because basically we're watching these futuristic war games happen, and everybody has to rely on each other, and the sort of older warrior class has to rely on the youthful invention of these new recruits. It's a pretty incredible film, and it satisfies on a lot of levels that absolutely pertain to our love of video games and technology and everything, but also there's depth that I wasn't prepared for. It's a great film.
It's the best video game movie since The Wizard.
In a way.
Yeah.
Or the original Tron.
It's an awesome video game movie.
Yeah.
And you know what they could have called this instead of Ender's Game, and I think it would have been a more appropriate title, is Nerds Rule.
Yeah. It's a very geeky movie.
Totally.
I think that people will like it if they're not into all of this stuff, but they'll wonder why they like it, and they'll think, is that what video games are like now?
Right. And then
because there are some terrific video game sequences in this film. But it does get geeky. It does get fetishistic. Me too. I mean, like if you are a fan of Homeworld, holy crap, you are going to love this movie.
Go see it. Support good movies.
Yes, and great performances. And the more I see, I mean, Ben Kingsley's a master, but I love him. I love seeing him. I love the different nuance it's got Kingsley and it's got Harrison Ford, and those are two similarly aged actors, but Kingsley has been everybody on screen. I mean, he's completely chameleon-like in the stuff that he puts up there. Harrison Ford is cranky man.
I still find when they come on screen, it's still like, oh, Harrison Ford's here. Oh, Ben Kingsley.
I know. Listen,
don't forget about that.
Look, they're the master class, and we're all like, okay, we've seen these guys, but they're both terrific in this movie.
This is the part in the show when I say, but
But
what
dude,
about Asa Butterfield?
He's great.
Who is amazing in this movie. He walks away with this motion picture. You know who I was a little let down by is Haley Steinfeld.
I know. I didn't even
so good.
I didn't recognize her
in True Grit.
Yes, I didn't even recognize her.
She's gotten a little older.
Yeah, but she's also become less present on screen.
You know what I mean? Trying to hold your own with Asa Butterfield.
Yeah, and I think the role doesn't.
Is that his name? I hope I'm saying it right.
Asa Butterfield. Yeah, who was in Hugo, and he did a fantastic job.
Funny name, Asa Butterfield.
Great name. I like it.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Totally. Awesome names. But listen, we are talking next gen, but right now we are shifting to Xbox One. We're going to be talking about something that is very big on the Xbox One. We
are friends with a lot of high-powered movers and shakers here in Vancouver.
We're very lucky to be, aren't we?
We fly around in helicopters and drink Dom P.
How's it going, James Cameron?
Yeah, but we caught up with one of the studio heads over at Capcom Vancouver, formerly known as Blue Castle, and I can't believe we've been trying to get this guy on the show for like 10 years, even before we had a show. We wanted to get this guy on it.
We've got a cool guest in the basement today. It's Jason Leigh, who's the senior producer of Dead Rising 3, a launch title for the Xbox One. How are you doing, sir?
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Good to have you here. You must feel overwhelmed, exhausted. How are you feeling?
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely amazing. Usually when you come out of a big game like this, 2-3 year production, you just feel beat and all you want to do is go hide in a corner somewhere and get your wits about you. But doing stuff like this is awesome, coming out and being proud of the game, proud of the team, and showing off our great work.
I'm such a huge fan of Dead Rising. The first time I got to go to your offices here in Burnaby, is that right? I don't know the area very well. I don't drive.
He lives here.
And I remember your offices, just to put it mildly and put it out there, aren't the most exciting in the world. It's the cubicles, you guys are working.
Utilitarian, yeah.
Got to get the job done.
You got to get the job done. But I remember using the bathroom in there, and I was like, this is where the guys peed who made Dead Rising 2. And it was so exciting for me. I mean, I was such a huge fan of the series. I can't wait for the third game to come along. Let's talk about when you first got the Xbox One dev kit. This is 2 or 3 years ago. Was it like a lawnmower engine and a D battery? I mean, how crude was the first piece of hardware you guys had to work with?
I can't actually tell you that because they were locked in rooms. It was very, very secretive, as you'd imagine. Makes sense.
They were Durango at the time, right?
Yep. I mean, for us, it was exciting, obviously, because anytime you get a console transition, you know, it's the more power. You know, what can we do with this? And yeah, to see some of the first images showing up on the screen, even though the wire kind of led to a secret room somewhere, it was just really cool, right? There literally
was a secret room with the equipment in it, and nobody could go in there, and the door was locked, and was there a man, like a midget who looked like the Wizard of Oz, who would like lift a curtain and be like, "I'll fix it later," you know, and then just.
Yeah, no armed guards or anything like that, but yeah, little
so
secret
dramatic.
rooms.
I love it.
But yeah, it was awesome. And then, you know, there's always those milestones of seeing the image on the screen for the first time. Getting the controller in your hands for the first time is awesome. And on that day, everyone kind of gathers around and, you know, compares it to the old one and stuff. But
that was worked on early too, wasn't it? They had a kind of a spec for the controller, I think, before they had finalized what the hardware spec was going to be. I think, right?
Yeah, I wasn't really involved in that end of things, but there's a lot of iteration in the development of a platform, the same way that there is with the development of a game. And just seeing sort of that process evolve is really cool.
Were they listening to you guys? Because obviously Microsoft kind of brought you in-house for the new game. Were they listening to things that you were wanting out of the machine and sort of taking that feedback and employing some of those ideas?
Yeah, Microsoft has been incredible, and I'm not just saying that, they've been incredible with the support of the developers.
Not just saying that because they're sitting over there.
And he's got a gun.
Chaperone.
Yeah, okay.
No, they're a fantastic company to work with. We were thrilled that they kind of jumped in our corner and really wanted to support the game and support the franchise and Capcom. And yeah, that was one of the things they promoted very early on was sort of lifting up the curtain and showing us what was going on and getting feedback as well. And that's one of the great things about the partnership and why it's great not just to have the 800-pound gorilla behind you for sort of the power and the support, but a partner that can actually listen. And you know, they're making a platform. They want it to be successful. Obviously, they need successful games as well. So they do a good job of listening to their dev partners.
Now, what was the pull for Capcom to give one of their crown jewels to a console as an exclusive title? I mean, what was the reasoning behind that?
Well, the history of the franchise is that's where it started, right? Dead Rising 1 exclusive on 360. So in a way, it's kind of taken the trilogy full circle. I know there's people with varying opinions. Some people like it, some people don't, and whatever. As a developer, I'm not really involved in those kind of decisions. I'm just excited when you can focus on a platform, you know what it can do, you're not sort of watering things down because it has to be cross-platform, making compromises, and you just sort of put your head down and make the best game possible for that system. But in the end, I'm really happy with it. I'm a big Microsoft Xbox fan, so I love it.
Yeah, and you guys have built for a whole bunch of. I mean, when you did the big games, right? The bigs,
Plural.
yeah, the bigs. Sorry, the bigs games.
That was interesting.
You had them on everything, right?
Let's start a studio.
Yeah.
Let's start a brand new independent studio. Let's make a baseball game, and let's make it for, what was it, 5 or 6 platforms?
You had it on the
we
PSP
were doing
back then.
PSP. When we came in the door, that was sure interesting.
The N-Gage, you had an N-Gage version.
So
you've been through the route of having to port and work and neuter the experience or shift the experience for every single SKU that's available. So this must be kind of refreshing to have, one spec to design for, right?
Just focus, yeah.
Yeah.
Neuter is a term you can use, but it's all the platforms out there are great in their own way. But yes, it is compromise. I mean, if the game was the same on all of them, it would be the same platform, right? And we would basically have, a VHS, and that's the only way you would play movies. But we don't have that. We have multiple platforms. All of them have things they do well, things they don't do so well. So it's compromise as a dev team.
That was the other thing I thought when I first got to go to the office. Was I was in the bathroom. I was like, this is where the bigs was made. All the guys who worked on the bigs got to pee here. And I love the bigs. And I know Ben Silverman, who's also on. He is a huge fan. We're still huge. We're waiting for the bigs 3. So hopefully, after Dead Rising 3, you guys will get to work.
2K. He works at Capcom now.
I don't know what I don't know.
They can't make that anymore.
I'm not on the business end.
That's a 2K thing.
Maybe Capcom should pick it up. But now I saw you at the end of Dead Rising 2, and we've talked about this before. You were drawn. You were gone. You were spent. You wanted your AAA game. That was always a dream of yours, I know. And you got it, and it nearly killed you and Josh Bridge and a lot of the other team members.
Yep.
But this time, look at you. It looks like you've been going to a tanning booth. I mean, you look refreshed. You got a twinkle in your eye still. Making this game obviously didn't kill you. What have you learned over the course of going from Blue Castle to Capcom and now making this a couple of huge games back to back? Obviously, you're learning something.
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. Well, multiple things. One is getting older. Kids around the house. You can't dedicate 100% of your time to just your career. So naturally, we have to start learning how to do these things smarter, right? I'm sure there's a number of people around the studio that would question whether or not that's the case, but we really try and do things better, right? Try and be more efficient. And we love our jobs, we love our careers, but there's other parts of life, right? So the old days of being there till 2, 3 in the morning and then back in the office at 8 just aren't going to work long term. So I think that's part of it. The other part is, again, like I was saying earlier, the pride in the game. We've been around to tons of shows, the entire sort of design production team with tech support, and we went down to E3 and Comic-Con, PAX, TGS,
Yeah.
Eurogamer, Gamescom. We've been taking all these guys to all these shows, and it's hard work. You guys know, you go and do the shows as well, but when you see the press reaction and you see the fan reaction, it just buoys you, right? So even though I'm tired, a lot of the team is tired, and everybody deserves a break because they worked really hard. At the end, for some reason, this one just feels easier because we're so excited that within a month here, the world's going to get to play it.
Well, one of the things you guys did with Dead Rising 2 was you threw thousands of zombies at us on the screen at the same time, or hundreds. Yeah, and it just felt pretty seamless, and now it's thousands, but you had already kind of achieved the impossible with the first game, your first game. And with this one, was it easier to kind of use the extra horsepower and scale up a little bit to the
dreams?
dreams?
Talk you guys did. It was I think it was a Vancouver Film School talk expo thing. You and Josh gave a terrific talk, and you were talking about how all the zombie tech worked in the game, and it was so impressive.
Yeah, obviously with Dead Rising 2, same platform as Dead Rising 1 or generation of platforms, so it was very much in keeping with sort of the metrics of the first one, the number of zombies we could put on screen and so on. Although even that was a challenge because, as you guys know, we literally recreated Dead Rising from scratch. There wasn't a scrap of code that we used from Dead Rising 1.
Why not?
Which
that's strange, right?
Well, it was made in Capcom
Osaka,
Japan.
yeah.
Capcom Japan.
Can you let him answer? Why do you have to step all over me?
Well, because I understand.
Okay.
All right.
Well, they don't understand.
Okay, well, tell us.
Speaking for them.
All right, go ahead.
So yeah, we didn't reuse anything, and they actually wanted that. Capcom Japan wanted us to start with our own stuff, build it on our own engine, so that we really knew how to milk it.
They also wanted to westernize the experience a little bit more.
Yeah, very much. The overall sort of creative and the user experience, they wanted it westernized because they found that Dead Rising 1 actually made a bit of a splash in the Western world, and they wanted to push that further, which I think was a great decision.
Yeah.
And the way the franchise has evolved, I'm hoping it's going to become one of those top tier franchises. But yeah, so recreating the game was a massive challenge, and one of the best compliments we got at the end of it was people didn't know that it was from scratch. People just assumed it's a natural sequel. We added bits on and we continued. But yeah, getting back to the point, the metrics of how many zombies and how big the space was and so on was all in keeping with the first one. Like I was saying earlier, that glee you get from a new platform, immediately it's how can we push this thing, right? How can we use the horsepower?
Right.
And the new generation of consoles is going to be awesome because you can see the number of zombies. You can see that now we can take Dead Rising, all the tenets of Dead Rising.
How proud you are right now looking at your game.
I love it. No. Yeah, you can take all the tenets of Dead Rising, the pillars of Dead Rising, anything and everything's a weapon, the amount of density that we throw in there, the amount of zombies on screen, and now we can actually do it in this fully open world, truly open world, fully streaming, not a single load as you go from one corner of the world to the other. And that either wasn't possible on the previous consoles, or the compromises we would have had to have made to drop the density and drop the number of zombies just to do something like the open streaming world would have really hurt the game. So
one of the things I always wonder, I've never made a game, I've never made anything really in my life. Some soup once.
Poops.
I make lots of poops. That's enough.
All right.
But you have steeped yourself in this world, and with Dead Rising 2 and now Dead Rising 3, and you guys, I'm assuming, didn't have a lot of downtime between the two. You jumped right back into it. I mean, aren't you ever like, that's it? I'm so sick of zombies. I'm so sick of this world. I'm so sick of these crazy things and the gore and at what point is there a saturation point for you guys? Because we get to do a lot of different things every day, and we're not just on one thing. But how do you keep it fresh for the team?
Mm-hmm. Well, we were talking a little bit about that earlier. Is that kind of refresh at the end of each project and making sure that you take the amount of time that you need to decompress, get creatively refreshed, go and watch some movies and read some books and so on. This is the Joss Whedon
thing you were talking about.
Yeah. The Joss Whedon cool interview, he called it filling the tank. So at the end, when you're depleted, it's like, go watch some bad TV and read some books and watch some movies, and whether it's really high quality stuff or low quality stuff, it's all going to get you thinking again creatively about what works and what doesn't work, what to do, what not to do. So that, I think, is a big part of it. In terms of the zombie saturation, we've been doing a lot of zombie stuff for a long time, but it's such a rich...
They're the perfect video game enemy, right? You could do whatever the hell you want. It's not, I mean, it's super
violent. You're not going to get zombie groups coming up saying, anti-zombie violence, although that was one of the themes in Dead Rising 2 in the game. They're perfect. Humanoid enemies, no real morality around killing them or not.
Their heads fall off really easily.
Yeah. And new seasons of Walking Dead keep getting sort of renewed, and there's obviously an insatiable appetite for this subject matter.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, when you're building Dead Rising 2, are you dreaming and sort of pre-building concepts to make it a fully open world thing with a lot more? I mean, was this part of the trajectory when you got the first kick at this? Were you kind of already thinking that you were going to be building an open world version?
Yeah, I mean, you never make a perfect game, and you even realize it's like, we're going to make the next one absolutely awesome.
Yeah. Even
when you're a quarter or the third of the way in, you realize that you're not going to be able to do everything that you aspire to doing. So already that early, you're thinking, wow, the next one, we'll do it on the next one, right?
Yeah.
But still, you got to just invest yourself in what you're doing and be really proud of it. And then, yeah, at this stage, as you're sort of coming off one, you start thinking about what are we going to do for the next one. The challenge, for sure, with this one was not only finishing a game and thinking, what's the sequel going to be, but now the new hardware is coming in. So how are we actually going to push that? And layer in not just the extra horsepower, because the first thing everybody thinks about is visuals, right? It's going to look so much better.
Yeah.
But then we try and think about how many more zombies can we push and how many more enemies and how much more stuff. But then it's like, Kinect. What are you going to do with Kinect? Smart glass capabilities.
What are you doing with Kinect? And I raise an eyebrow to that question, because there's suspicion around this device still. What are you going to do with Kinect?
Yeah, we got some cool stuff going on with Kinect. One of the ones that I like the most is the zombie grapple stuff. So in the past, where it's been various sort of quick time events, hammer a button, jiggle a stick, the camera's watching you, and you just have to fling the zombie off, and it just feels a lot more sort of immersive and engaging.
You throw it over your shoulder like that?
Yeah, you don't have to hit a single button. The zombie grabs on you, and as you would in real life, if someone grabbed on you, just sort of make a motion and it gets flung off. And then on top of that, the voice recognition stuff is really cool. So now you can actually command survivors with voice commands.
So get over here, run for cover.
Scavenging, you know, so, we're obviously not Rainbow Six. We don't have super deep squad control, but we did want to add a layer of extra ability to command survivors, and then when the Kinect sort of came along, it's like, hey, we can actually make this really cool with the voice and with the gestures and so on.
What are some of the things you say to survivors? Just give
so scavenge is one.
You say scavenge, and you just say it out loud in your living room?
Yeah. So that's one. That's one we didn't even have on a button in the last game, right? Where if someone's in a room and there's a bunch of cool stuff around, you had to physically go and pick it up and then hand it to them. And now you got 3, 4, 5 guys around you scavenge, and you see them all scurry off into corners and grab machetes and lead pipes and stuff.
If I say scavenge in my house, the next sound you'll hear is my wife packing a bag and going to the hotel. That's it. I'm out of here.
I think you said that 7 years ago.
She's been gone for a long time. Yeah.
So how do you retain the Dead Rising-ness of this game when you turn it into an open world experience and it doesn't sort of evolve into being Grand Theft Auto or an Assassin's Creed or something like that? How do you retain the feel and the vibe of what you've already built with your first kick at it in the very first game?
I think the first thing is sticking to the pillars. Like you mentioned that the VFS thing that Josh and I did a few years back there, the presentation was actually about how do you create a vision for a game, and then how do you communicate it to a team?
Yeah.
And our kind of shtick with our presentation was vision is not some hoity-toity thing where I'm the auteur and it's all about my vision. It's actually rallying 100, 150, 200 people and getting everybody seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
And with Dead Rising, the key was identifying what are those pillars, what are those things we have to have in the game, otherwise it's not a Dead Rising game anymore. So the anything and everything as a weapon is a huge one. Not a lot of games out there have 400, 500 weapons where you can literally pick up any prop in a room and then use it to smack zombies, even if it's a useless thing, right? Like a foam finger or a giant lollipop or something like that. So that's one. We're a horde game. We push more enemies than most games. There's a couple other that sort of compete, but that's part of our bread and butter is making sure that in the frame there's just a ton of zombies all the time. Another one for just kind of the DNA of the series is the dark humor. We kind of refer to it as clown shoes a little bit around the office, but it's important that we've got this juxtaposition of the serious nature of its horror and its zombies and it's dark and so on, but then you get these incredibly crazy psychopaths, just bizarre themes to these guys. The story as well feels very sort of B-movie.
Yep.
The characters are taking the situation seriously, but the situation isn't really that serious or plausible. So it's things like that, right? We just latch onto those very, very early, get them up on the walls in the studio, and then use those to guide the team. And if we see it kind of leaving those tenets, that's how we pull people back on track.
It's a pretty big year for open world with Saints Row 4 and Grand Theft Auto 5 and Assassin's Creed. Watch Dogs got out of the way.
Yep.
Do you feel that this is helped by that appetite for that, or is it hurt because these games are all massive and people are only going to want to, spend so many experiences in these huge open worlds that they have?
I think there's a massive appetite for these games because it appeals to the play your own way thing that all of us as gamers kind of have within us.
Right.
I like a massive variety of games, and I actually really like linear games. I like games that have a very clear picture of a path and a set of experiences that I'm going to be guided through, and there's going to be emotional peaks and valleys and all that. I love that kind of game, but the appeal of open world is you jump in and
it's yours.
Like, yeah, do I need to do that? No, I'm going to go do this instead. And Skyrim just put the zap in me big time. I was always an open world fan before Skyrim, but that game in particular, I think what it hit more than any other open world game I had played was the ADD nature of you sit down and you're like, okay, I haven't been on the main story quest for days. I'm going to the next story mission. And you would find 5 hours later at 2 a.m. as you're turning off the controller, you got halfway there, and then you ended up in a different corner of the world because it just kept throwing interesting stuff at you. And it's like, yeah, exactly. So to long-winded answer, but I don't think you're going to see a saturation of open world games. I think it's a genre unto itself, and it's a way to play. It's a type of play style.
So the game is done, and obviously you guys will be watching like hawks as the reviews come out, and I know that you guys are artists and you are sensitive artists in a lot of ways, and that's a tough process to go through, to watch the world get the game and then have at it and give you honest feedback. But let's talk about the way you guys celebrate the end of a game. You've shipped a lot of games at this point. What are you guys doing to mark the shipping of Dead Rising 3, and what sort of party, and can I be invited?
He wants to pee in your bathroom.
Come pee in the bathroom, yeah.
I do enjoy that.
The ending of games is always very strange because there's no real definitive end point
anymore, especially with DLC. And
especially now with just how much more online games are and so on. And,
right.
There's a lot more support at the tail end of games now. But there is no point where everybody goes, it's done, and everyone's still in the office, and then you all kind of get together for a party. So we still do that, obviously. We get the team together and we have sort of a wrap party, and we all kind of celebrate with each other. It's like, sometimes we got along, sometimes we didn't, but we came together and we made something really awesome.
It's like daily TV. It is, right?
Never ends.
It doesn't end.
At the end of each day, you high five.
Yeah, it's like,
we have a Christmas
go make
party,
another one. I know, we do, but it's like, okay, we're back in production with more stuff. And that's kind of what it is now, right? Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, there's always a sense of completion at the end, sort of tying the bow on it and then moving on, but it's not a definitive, clear point in time, which is what makes it kind of odd. But we make sure to celebrate, yeah, for sure.
Out of all of the launch games for next generation, this feels like it hits a lot of quadrants the best. Like it's got the zombies in it, it's got a big open world in it, it's going to have lots of flashy graphics and cool technology.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear to see. It had a great demo at E3, and I think the response has been pretty positive everywhere you've taken it and shown it so far. That must feel pretty good. You've got the air under your wings with Xbox support and everything like that.
Yeah, it feels really good. E3 was interesting, actually. It was very interesting because a bunch of us went down to unveil the game. Obviously a massive honor being at the Microsoft unveiling of the platform, the launch lineup and all that.
A nice surprise too, because I don't think the press was expecting that at all.
Yeah, and a super proud moment in that hall when they did the unveiling of all the titles. And just when Dead Rising 3 came up on the screen, there was an immense cheer, and you got goosebumps when that happens.
Nice.
And there were honestly a few tears. It was incredible. But then we got called out as being too Call of Duty.
Oh, because you're iterating.
Yeah, which was really interesting, and that I think took us by surprise a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if people were ready that we were going to go a little bit more serious with it, but I think we've proven with all the other shows and the other stuff in the game that we're focusing on is we still have that breadth. We are a game of breadth where we've got tons of crazy things, right? We've got clothing, we've got tons of collectibles, blueprints for combo weapons, we've got tons of vehicles, survivors, psychopaths, it just goes on and on and on. So yeah, over time, actually, that's one of the incredible things about all the shows that we've done is the game is so wide with so many different features in it. We've almost had to say, okay, which show are we going to use to now show this set of features? And it's taken all of the shows to actually get to the point where we've kind of unveiled most of the game, right? The only thing that we haven't really gone wide with is the story.
Have you stayed in contact with the Dead Rising Japanese team? With any of the original creators?
Keiji Inafune, are you guys still friends?
Well, Inafune went on to do his own thing in Japan. He left the company.
He's doing well with Mighty Number 9.
Yeah,
that looks awesome.
This game definitely started with their support. We were dealing with Capcom Japan a lot. And those guys, of course, were always really helpful because they started the series, right? So they were doing the same kind of guiding that I was saying earlier, where they set those initial tenets of the franchise. Over time, though, we've sort of taken it on, and we really feel like it's our franchise now.
Right. And so is this a North American-driven game from here on out, do you think?
This one certainly at the end was.
Yeah.
So obviously can't talk about the future, but we like having the independence. We feel like we know the franchise now, and it's really ours. And then, of course, with the backing of Microsoft, they kind of guide us as well. So we're in a good spot.
Resident Evil has been struggling. It's not a secret. The sales are showing that, and the fan reaction is showing that. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like there is any internal competition or strife or dilemma or frustration from Capcom that they have these two huge zombie brands, but this is clearly in a sort of a brighter light right now?
It's interesting, right? Because they've pushed the tech,
yeah,
and they've expanded and broadened, the definition of what a zombie game can be. Whereas Resident Evil's kind of gone in the other direction. They keep shrinking it down further and further, and making it smaller and smaller, and gazing more and more into their navels.
Right, right. I mean, it's still a huge brand. There's the movie series and all that stuff, but in the game space, this has arguably got a lot more positivity around it right now.
That.
And do you feel any of that heat at all, or
they could be making the next Resident Evil?
Maybe.
I wouldn't.
Then one of the last Resident Evil games was also made in Vancouver.
Don't get that rumor started.
Yeah.
So first of all, I'm a big Resident Evil fan. I remember very, very clearly sitting with the old PlayStation and Resident 2, and that was one of my favorite games of all time. I love the environments, love the tone and the mood, just fantastic. And the series has obviously evolved since then. In terms of sort of feeling heat or competition, we don't really, because they make the game on the other side of the ocean, we make the game on this side. And also, I think we've carved out very different sort of niches for the franchises as well.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of things that we do well, a whole bunch of things that they do well. And I don't know what their plans are, how they plan to react to how the last one went over, but we're kind of head down on our own stuff.
Okay. And what's, I know you can't really give us specifics on titles or make huge announcements or anything right now about what's in progress, but give us a sense of the future of what's going to happen with Capcom Vancouver.
I can answer that.
Yeah.
They're going to be busy.
They're going to be busy. And zombies.
And there might be zombies involved.
There might be zombies involved.
And the big three is on the way.
Yeah, I mean, tell us about the integration and becoming a part of Capcom culture, and I think you're probably the biggest Western developer for this international conglomerate right now.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you be?
Yeah, it's just a bizarre position to be in, because we started Blue Castle Games in 2005 with 12 people on day one.
Nuts.
July 4th, so Independence Day, right?
So 12 people right now on the iPhone, that'd be 4 developers, right?
Yeah. But so starting from there and starting as a baseball-centric studio, because we had a lot of baseball expertise, who knew that within a few years Capcom would come knocking, and whatever they saw in us, it was like, you guys are the right guys to continue the Dead Rising franchise and evolve it and make it more Western. We've always kind of sailed under lucky stars like that, and it was a massive honor, and we took it very seriously. So to go from that and make what we felt was a really solid game and really true to the original game, and then have Capcom then say, you know what, we want you to marry us. And that was the term they used. It wasn't, we want to acquire you, we want to buy you.
Is it a Japanese expression?
We want to, I don't know, maybe. How do you see the expression? Are you married?
No, I'm actually not. I'm available.
I think the point of it.
This is really
it's become a dating site.
Awkward now. Yeah.
No, I think there
was a respect.
Yeah, it was actually really, really kind of nice that they termed it that way.
They couldn't have done anything more flattering than just to outright say, "Come join us, and you're a part of us now." I love going by the building too. It just says Capcom out front. It's so cool. It's
actually really odd. If you're cruising up Willingdon there in Burnaby and you look over and there's Capcom on a building, it's like, that's odd.
That's awesome.
What they doing there?
There's one of those in Osaka, and there's one of them in San Jose, I think, right? Is Capcom headquarters in North America. Must feel pretty good.
It feels great. So yeah, going from that of joining Capcom, joining forces, and then being in this position now, where now we have the added partnership of Microsoft and the support there, we're in a really good spot.
Awesome. So it hasn't really changed culture-wise for you guys. You still kind of have your autonomy, but you feel part of a bigger gaming legacy, I guess. Mm-hmm. Is that a good way to say it?
Yeah, we're all massive Capcom fans. I remember back when I was a kid playing, Trojan and 1941 and all these amazing Capcom games, and at that point, you have aspirations to get into the industry and so on, but you never think that one day I will actually work for a company that you respect and has such an incredible lineage of games, right?
Yeah. What's going on in Vancouver? Everybody's leaving. What's happening?
Taxes?
Is that all it is?
I'm not sure. I'm more creative focused at the studio.
Yeah.
When we began the business, I was more involved in the business side, but Rob Barrett, the president, and our GM Robin, they manage that stuff. They do a great job managing that, and I like that I've kind of stepped away from that, and it's been more creative focus for me. So as a result, I probably don't keep my eye on sort of the community and the way that stuff is playing out as much. I do know that it's a little sad because Vancouver for a while there was, I think, the center of game development in North America, right?
2009, 2010, yeah.
And when we started the company in 2005, a whole bunch of other companies started out around the same time, and I think we're one of the few that is still kind of not only going but really flourishing. And I don't think it's because we're smarter or more creative or work harder, because I know people in the industry and everyone cares, everyone wants to do a good job, but sometimes it's that magical alignment of the right project and the right people and the right support. So I can't really put my finger on it, but all we can do is keep doing the best job we can.
What's funny though is, as you mentioned, 1941 and Trojan, some of the old Capcom games. I mean, could you imagine as a kid that games would look like this?
Yeah.
No.
20, 30, 35 years later, like incredible.
Yeah, no, and one of the things I always have to kick my own butt on is embracing that it is going to keep going and it is going to get better, because I tend to be a real old school gamer and old school designer. And whenever I feel myself kind of reverting into, why don't we just make it a 2D platformer, right? Next Dead Rising could be a 2D platformer. It's like, psh, psh. No, embrace it, right? Because they're going to start looking more and more photoreal. They're going to get bigger. Things like Kinect are going to become much more important. I know there's a lot of talk about the Kinect right now, but what they're trying to do with it is really progressive.
Yeah. Embrace the tech.
Yeah, and when you watch futuristic movies and so on, that stuff is coming. It's all coming.
Yeah, we just saw Ender's Game, and it has some pretty impressive kind of future looks at possible game ideas.
I'm ready for my implants.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And to be smarter and half robot.
I like it.
Yeah, you ready?
Yeah, we kind of are that, and you mentioned a couple things there. You've got an app that goes along with Dead Rising, and I saw an example of that through your E3 demo, which was pretty cool. I want to talk about that, but also you talk about developers leaping off and saying, let's just go smaller. Let's make 2D platformers, and there's a glut of that right now, and there seems to be not enough, I think, AAA or console-type development happening, and maybe that's going to be changed a little bit with these new machines out there. Are you concerned about that as a game consumer, as a fan, as somebody that's built their career in console development? Are people shifting away too much from this and trying to chase the, the free-to-play models and the lower cost models and trying to get their iOS titles and stuff out there?
Yeah. I think it's the same thing as what we were just talking about with technology. You have to embrace it, because as soon as you say, no, I'm a console guy, I only like consoles, this other stuff isn't going to last, you're going down the wrong road at that point. So I think we have to embrace it and go in your career as a creative person. You need to go to places that interest you. I love, like I said, old school games. I love a whole bunch of iPad and iPhone games. Play a bunch with my kids and so on, and one day I'd like to work on those kind of games. At this point, obviously, we're really focused on big AAA console titles, and in the same way that Hollywood, the model has changed big time there, I think there's always going to be that space for the giant, tentpole blockbuster films, and it's the same way for games. We're going to have an appetite for, show me what $100 million, $150 million can do, blow me away with 3 years of 300 people working or whatever, and I want to experience that, right?
Will there always be an appetite for that, you think? Will people always go for that? I mean, because one of the things that I think challenges that idea is that games are not so much it's a cost decision, it's the time decision.
Yeah.
Because even the dollar games can take all of your time away.
Yeah, well, the ultimate decider will be the gamers. And if they stop supporting them, we're not going to have them anymore, because as soon as you start losing money on a bunch of big games, there's not going to be the appetite to take that kind of risk on. So in terms of what I hope that it continues, because I love diving into these giant games and playing. And of course, you get older, you guys play a ton of games. Because that's your job.
Yes.
For us, our job is making games, so we don't always have time to play as many games, so we have to be more selective. And myself, like I was saying, towards the end of a game, games start to stack up on the shelf beside the consoles, and they're in plastic still. But if I have to pick my spots, I'm obviously going to go after the biggest, highest reviewed games on the year, and I'm going to consume those, along with the little stuff, the Xbox Live stuff and the iOS stuff.
Yeah, and Scott and I love a lot of that stuff too. We review some of those games and they stay with us. Kingdom Rush is one of our favorite games. Both of us love that.
Eating 60, 70 hours out of my life. Yeah.
But for me personally, I'm not going to speak for Scott. I walk around thinking of these experiences and these moments that I have in these huge titles. And
I think about sex.
And he thinks about sex.
Meatloaf
and
sandwiches.
Maybe one day having some.
one day.
Got to get married to do that.
You don't have to, technically. Where are you going with this?
Well, I am concerned with, the cynicism in our industry and people getting kind of swayed by all of these little blinking lights, and we're as guilty of that as anybody.
We have to protect Jason from this. We have to let them keep their heads down, let them keep working.
No, but I'm curious on his viewpoint, because he's working on a title that requires a new console and expensive technology, and took a long time to build, and I'm assuming everybody that built this one wants to build another one. Is there concern about the shifting marketplace and having to think smaller for a future?
Yeah, I think there's always going to be concern for sure.
Yeah.
But the market is going to tell us, and very quickly we got 2 giant consoles launching. we're going to find out what is the appetite for them.
Yeah.
And obviously, fingers crossed, the hope is that people really embrace them, because I think it's awesome. I think every time we get a refresher in the industry with a new console cycle coming in, we kind of shake out some of the bad habits from before and the things that didn't work. We have to embrace new tech and new ways of doing things. And the most important thing is to give the player new experiences, right?
Yeah.
Some of the movie directors that I really admire are the ones that shake things up, and they don't just keep spitting the same movie out each time.
Totally.
It's the guys who come in and go, you know what, you guys have never seen this before,
like
and
Neil
I'm going to show it
Blomkamp.
to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are so many parallels between games and movies, because, I mean, remember the rise of Miramax and independent film? I mean, we don't even really call them indie films anymore. And I think we're still so young as a medium, and we still have so far to go, that this is just a phase, and it's a period that we're going through where we're trying to figure out what our future is. So we're still making the big games, and we're making the small games.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm in this funk because of these terrible
You are in a
reviews
funk.
of Batman Arkham
I know,
Origins.
you're so down. You're taking it personally.
It really upsets me, because it's a beautiful, awesome Batman experience, and reviewers are out there trashing it, and there's skepticism about it, and it's just like, these people are killing themselves to build this stuff, and I don't want that to keep happening to developers like yours.
Yeah.
I mean, I know how hard you guys work on a game like this, and I don't want there to just be this apathy, this shrug about this incredible work.
Yeah, and you mentioned that earlier. You sweat over a game, and a whole bunch of people honestly make big personal sacrifices to make the game as good as possible.
Yeah.
And if you get to the end of a game and the game isn't reviewed well, that stings. You start to question, was that worth it?
Yeah, and all of the Metacritic crap that comes around all of
Look at
that.
BioWare with Mass Effect and all the
having to redo the ending, or
crazy.
Or BioShock Infinite having to, concede that, it wasn't as good as everybody had hoped it was going to be. I mean, it's crazy.
And at the end of the day, it's going to be subjective.
Yes.
Right? Anybody that's in the press and their job is to be a critic, they're projecting their own, personality, values, et cetera, at the game.
Yeah.
And even though people work hard to make these things and spend a lot of money to make these things, you can't just reward people for effort put in. There has to be quality there, right? You have to reward good, creative decision making.
Yep.
So I would never say, no AAA game should ever be reviewed below an 85. It's like, let's celebrate the games that for whatever reason, chemistry or good creative decision making, rise to the top, and those are the ones that people gravitate towards. But at the same time, I'm really interested to see how the old Metacritic reset button is going to be pushed on next gen, because that's always a question mark, right?
Yeah.
How are you guys going to look at the next gen of launch titles, and are you going to reset the average to lower?
Right.
Is it going to stay high? Is it just the best one of the launch titles gets the 95 and the spectrum drops below that? And that's really in your hands.
Well, I think after playing games for almost 4 decades now, I expect a lot more from games than I ever used to.
Right.
And certainly now with the new consoles and what they can do and all the power they're supposed to have, the expectations are high. That's a lot of pressure.
There is a maturity about the way this new console generation is coming forward, though, and I think that's been well expressed by both Microsoft and Sony. Is that it's not the technological leapfrog that the PS2 to PS3 or the Xbox One to Xbox 360 was. This is smart x86 architecture that's very accessible. You guys already speak these languages. It's not having to double and triple your team sizes to get games that look like this now. And I think that there is also an educated consumer base out there that isn't expecting, holographic experiences yet. So I think there's a maturation that's happening in the games industry, but we still have another console war. How do you feel about this new console war that's about to happen for it? Do we need it?
Do we need it? I remember having conversations 15 plus years ago about should video game systems just be like the VHS or the DVD player or now the Blu-ray player.
Yeah.
Should there be a standardized format? And now it's about content.
Yep.
I'm not one of those decision makers. I'm not one of the people at the top of those companies. I I can't imagine the head of Sony and the head of MS ever getting in a room and going, hey, let's compromise on this. You know, competition sometimes is a really good thing because it pushes both sides. So there's positives and negatives. But at this point, obviously, I know which camp I'm in, and I'm like I said, I've always been a huge Xbox fan. When the Xbox first came out, just day one playing Halo and Project Gotham, I was, man, this is cool. This is awesome. And I think MS has done an amazing job then with the 360 of pushing what consoles should be able to do. So I'm really excited.
You gonna take a little vacation? What are you gonna do for yourself? Buy yourself a little treat? You deserve a treat. Get yourself something nice.
Maybe a PS4.
The Microsoft guy doesn't like that.
You guys planned that, didn't you?
No, we didn't.
What are you gonna do?
Oh, it's some time off for sure.
Yeah.
We're kind of wrapping up some things around the office still. The game's not out yet, so.
You got any new hobbies?
Making weapons.
Making more weapons.
Getting back into reading a little bit more.
Yeah, what are you reading? Anything good?
Actually, I've just finished the Schwarzenegger biography.
Oh, really? Nice.
And it was awesome. It was actually a real sort of creative refresher. It's one of those filling the tank things where you read about this guy who started out as a farm boy in Austria and became the world bodybuilding champion and became a real estate mogul and then became the biggest movie star in the world and then became the governor. Just the drive you read about in the book.
The power of a human being.
Can you do the voice?
Yeah, just
do the voice. You can do it.
Probably better than us.
Go ahead.
I bet you can do the voice.
Welcome to the party, Richter. Just say that.
I'll be back.
That's good.
Do you read in his voice when you're reading his autobiography?
Yeah, you do. Well, it's like Anthony Bourdain, you know, he's on TV all the time with No Reservations and whatever. And I'm reading Kitchen Confidential as well right now.
That's
and as
such
you're
a great
reading,
book,
you can't help but not read in his voice, right?
Nice.
Love Kitchen Confidential.
I love it. We have a video game
Welcome
talk
to Book
show,
Chat.
and we're talking about books.
Vic and Scott.
That's so rad.
Oprah's book club.
Okay, what do you say to skeptics out there?
How much longer are you going to keep him here?
This is it. This is the last question. All right, there's skeptics. There's skeptics. Dead Rising, Xbox. Xbox One. Why do I need this? What do you say to people
I'll answer for Jason.
Yeah.
Just try it, and that's all I ask.
What did you think about Scott's answer?
5 stars.
Little thin soup there.
Okay, so well, good. And you elaborate.
So like I said, I'm a gamer. Everybody at the studio is are gamers, and we're really excited about the game that we've made, about how different the experience is going to be, how much more sophisticated it's going to be. Jump in and try these things out. Beginning of the console generation, right? So there's only going to be so many launch titles. It's going to take a while until there's a library in place, but the Xbox in particular has a pretty strong lineup, and over the course of the next 12 months, there's going to be really good games out there. I'm jazzed for Titanfall, and honestly, I can't wait to play arcade.
You know what? It's so
in my
funny.
own basement on my big screen with surround sound.
When I played Dead Rising 2, I thought there was a little bit of an undercurrent or an air of insecurity about it, because I think you guys were kind of surprised that you were pulling off this awesome feat. But there's an assuredness about Dead Rising 3. There's a little bit of a cockiness that I think is going to serve the game well. Like, you guys are very sure of what you can do at this point, and that confidence is coming through the game.
Is that something you need to have to make open world?
Cockiness?
Yeah.
Confidence, yeah.
I don't know if certainly confidence. You need that in anything that you do creatively. Otherwise, you get paralyzed and you won't move forward. And sometimes you take big bets and big risks, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I guess the reason that we're so confident about DR3 is it looks great when you actually get your hands on the controller and play it. It feels way smoother than before, and it really is a game that you can jump in and play your own way. One of the things that Josh has been great about with talking to the press is pitching that idea of, we wanted the game this time to be more serious, more mature, more sophisticated as a baseline experience. But if you want to get into the clown shoes and the kookiness, it's there. Go dive into it. If you don't want it, play it straight up. So it's just a really, I think, broad experience.
Otis, is he in there?
No Otis.
No Otis this time.
Wait,
Otis types.
Wait, no, can't give away a spoiler, but There's a bit of an Otis reference at one point.
Very nice. I can't wait.
His brother Modus.
Otis.
I can't wait to play this game.
This is the first game I'm putting in when I get the Xbox One at home.
I'm going to buy two copies in case one gives out in the night.
Yep.
Jason.
And the thing is, I believe you, because when you were in the studio last time, you actually had a chance to get your hands on the controller, and you said, no, I don't want to ruin it. I want to play it at home. I want to experience it.
I do.
Sort of pure.
The lights off, just me and the cats.
That's so romantic, right?
Yeah.
And so creepy.
And we get to peer in his lights.
What?
Thanks for coming down, brother.
Yeah, pleasure.
Awesome. Congratulations. Can't wait to play the game.
Man.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Jason Leigh. It was awesome to have him in the basement. He classed the joint
Golf
up.
clap.
And he was not even, brought to us by the magic of technology. He actually came to the basement. He put on the clothespin, sat down, and enjoyed some time.
Remember, we had Billy Campbell here once. He will never come back.
Well, he left some of the stink in here, too.
How's Billy doing? You talked to him?
He's been busy on his show. What's it called?
Being human? Being alone?
No, it's
That's
Helix.
my show.
Helix, I think it's called.
Helix.
It's a new sci-fi show that Ron Moore is a part of, and he's shooting in Montreal. We have to have him back on, talk about the show. That'd be awesome.
See what his availability is.
See if he has chosen in this console war whether he bought a PS4 or an Xbox One.
We are all going to be choosing in the next couple of weeks with our wallets, with our hearts, with our minds.
Yes.
Xbox One versus PlayStation 4. That sound you hear is not thunder on the horizon. That is two behemoths clashing.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm announcing a prize fight here. You feel the excitement though.
Yeah, last year winter was coming, but this is much bigger than that.
It was a long, dark winter. Yeah, this is going to be brightness.
Honestly, it's going to get incredibly exciting to start talking about all of this stuff.
Busy.
I know. So nuts.
In the best way imaginable.
We've got travel coming up. We've got good guests coming up.
We've been preparing our whole lives for this moment.
And listen, if you haven't already, I don't know if you've been listening to the podcast.
VixBasement.com.
Yeah, VixBasement.com, but you're not aware that we have a new thing on the way. It's called EPN.TV. It is.
What is that now?
Well, we're not ready to talk too much about it. You're a part of it. Yeah.
Do I have my own show called Being Alone?
Yes, you do. Yeah, Being Alone with Cats.
Starring Scott Jones. Yeah.
EPN.TV. Go to the URL. It's going to be a very important URL for us.
Something?
Well, maybe, but sign up and get some more info on this, all right? Show some support to EPN.TV.
You could win a hug from Vic.
Yeah. Well, you get that for free.
Maybe some soup that I prepared.
Here, I'm giving you an e-hug right now.
Okay.
Can you hear that?
Gross, man.
How was that?
You just rub your boobs against the microphone.
Sorry about that,
That
Josh.
was so weird.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Thank you, Jason Leigh, and thank you, Sony and the PlayStation 4 for supporting us. And remember,
send them.
And PS4 comes out November 15th. We'll see you next time in Vic's Basement.
Send them.
You want to say Stitcher?
Are we still on that?
Yeah.
Stitcher.
And iTunes and everywhere.
Send us the controls.
All right, Batman. Once again, thank you to Sony and the PlayStation 4 for supporting Vic's Basement. You guys rock.